is that we get too old soon and wise too late. And I hope by these noble resolutions, the DF is here to avoid the biggest tragedy of life, wisen too late. Some of us who've been around these political spaces for some years have gone through some of these tragedies. And because we haven't had occasion to enumerate how costly they have been to the noble cause of total liberation, we have been making the same mistakes. And these mistakes have cost us dear. Albert Einstein said at some stage that we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them. So over time, because you're in a hurry, either because you are very scared or because you have no time to reflect, you make mistakes in haste, and then you hurriedly also try to solve the same mistakes. When you think you have stumbled, then you have reason to give yourself time to reflect on the journey you have trekked over the years to be able to soldier on better. And today we sit to resolve at a moment of extreme discomfort in our politics. And in life, if only do better when you're comfortable, then you're resolving to do nothing. Because for the better part of life, you'll be visited by extreme discomfort. And politics as we know it can be extremely discomforting. So you have an opportunity as the creme de la creme of the party in a moment of discomfort, but with the occasion to dream, to reflect, to imagine, and have perspective on the failures of the yesteryears. I listened with extreme attention throughout your warm debate this morning and afternoon, and I believe we're in a better place to make these decisions as a young party. I want to thank you for the job you have done. If people were like money, we would have put them on a light, a blue light, to determine which one is fake and which one is not fake. Unfortunately, people are not like pieces of paper you can put on a light to determine whether they are fake or not fake. I'm using that analogy to describe some of the events of the last couple of days, and some of them were involving the president of the Democratic Party, the man who grew ahead of us, and unfortunately he thought people have a lot of time for him. But I want to assure him, those who speak to him, that in him he's doing a lot badly, but unfortunately he's doing it perfectly. You're not doing a bad thing perfectly. The jury is out for him and his ilk. But I want to assure him that at the DF, we don't even think about him. So he's well advised to concentrate, like the Honorable Kasama advised him on his very, very difficult marriage he's going through. If you asked, it's equipped a question and ask the difference between animals and humans, any of you are random, the quicker answer would be that animals walk on fours, but humans walk on twos. That would be the easier answer. Not so. But the big difference is that animals will never allow the dumbbells to lead them. But for some reason, humans allow the dumbbells in their midst to be their leaders. In the animal world, only the smartest and brave and intelligent can lead. How did we allow ourselves to be led by the dumbest in our midst? When the quiff should not cry of infancy. Infants should not be a limiting factor for our progression, but an opportunity that heavens afford us to stand on the graveyards of the old to make the biggest leap into the horizon. And I invite you here and beyond to drop all manner of timidity and we walk. We're going to get there. I trust. And the little time the country has afforded us space, we have articulated what we stand for. It's very difficult to even imagine that we are going into an election. Museveni has been open to articulate his agenda. His agenda is power, the purpose of which he doesn't care. So can we say he's honest about his intentions? So, yeah, he's been honest. His is power for consequence, he doesn't care. Power, power. So if his is power, what is the agenda of those who want to take power from him? So we have an opportunity to be more articulative and clear as to what we want to change about this nation. Because if Museveni says he's going to change this, you are sure he's not going to do it for the better. Whatever he does to consolidate power of very serious, grievous consequences to the future of this country. One of my biggest pains is that as the opposition, we have failed to smell the coffee. I have been to all parts of the country to meet senior citizens, to speak to elders. I have spoken to scholars. Probably I'm here to meet witch doctors. Literally saying, I have literally spoken to all and sundry to understand how best we can posit the future of this country. Some of the pains are obvious. This country is crying about injustice and unfairness. When we were in Acholi, we went to meet the culture leader. The message was very clear. When we were in Teso, the message is very clear. I have been to all parts of the country. I've been to Bunyoro, I've been to Ankole. Even when you think that people in Ankole are satisfied, you go there and talk to them. They will tell you, have you heard that? And now that they have become of age, and their parents, how can we explain to them that they are not able to take their children to college? These are very serious questions that require a country and its leaders to reconcile with the realities of the day if we are going to avoid a catastrophe of regime collapse and state collapse. I don't care if the regime collapses, but the state remains intact. But the big challenge is that the state and the regime are now fused. If you must diffuse the two, then you must speak to the language of legal reform. There was a very interesting conversation earlier on, I think from Comrade Michael Mavike, about what that you are proposing, where did it work? So if you are proposing a protest vote, that is so much. So educate us, where did it work? Then I will take you to school where reforms and the transition worked. So comrades, don't be afraid to promote our 3 issues agenda: reforms, the transition, and reconciliation. This election is going to come. It is going to go. It will leave the country in a state of inertia, or even worse, because we are so timid to make the step. We are so timid to confront the elephant in the room. When I heard Mr. Mao speaking about the people he's working with and General Museveni, I was like, well, it's not good for a leader to keep their mouth open all the time. He spoke about reforms. You didn't know that he was trying to reform his personal life. We're talking about reforming the legal regime to involve all citizens into a conversation about this country. I did ask these colleagues of mine whether anybody in the DF is looking for a job from General Museveni. Said no. So if somebody is looking for a job, please go for the interview like our colleague went. Now you can see the effort to keep his job. That's noble. But you must be honest that I'm trying to keep my job. Who doesn't want a job? But it must be a honest job. Not a job on the blood of others. So we need to be strong. I want to assure you it's not going to be easy. It won't be easy. But who says that we live for easy things? I have advised variously, if you want things easy, go out there, sell ice cream. When you still feel tired, sit and eat some. Probably that is easier. But eventually you will need transport. So, we are a party with a purpose. And people with a purpose, goals and a vision have no time for drama. They invest their energy and creativity and the focus on bringing hope to citizens and communities where there is despondency and where there is no room to think about the future. I want to congratulate you, comrades, for your resolve. When I was in Acholi, we had a very good time to reflect on what has gone wrong with my friends. The Honorable Luce Achi, were within Parliament, very, very brilliant lady. And you could see the drive in her. When I visited Padel in 2022 to check on the community suffering from the nodding syndrome, I met a young councillor in Comrade Ojok, Dixon. He took us around the communities, and it was one of the most depressing days of my life, I must tell you. Visiting those communities. We trekked with him, we checked on communities, went into their houses, we checked on children. So when I met him this year, probably a month ago, I could not recollect. I said, remember when we were checking on these communities 3 years ago? I said, yes. I said, I'm still here standing. Can we go and make the difference? That's very, very important. You have a young lady in the community determined to make a difference on behalf of his people. That's what we're asking of you. So comrades, I can understand. You have resolved you want to populate parliament. You want to populate local governments. Summon your energy, the rest will find you. We do not know where to find the money. The money will be found for your election in the energy you invest, in the courage you exhibit, in the chairman, if you found time and resources. Invest us with the opportunity to meet and discuss deeper the party ideology and processes. Just like I think Comrade Salim observed, how the members properly understood what it is to be a center-left party. Do they understand for us what it means for us to be a green party and then center left? I think as leaders they are very important. Some of the documents at your disposal you have authored partly explain these to greater detail. But also I think we need to break them down so that even a common man reading can easily comprehend what we are about to do and think through. I want to encourage us. Yes, it's not going to be easy. But don't forget the fact that at the DF, even in our earlier constituting arrangements as the DA, we did speak coherently about what needed to be done before the election on the horizon. We talked about the need to have a clear register, and we were clear that the country needed a biometric register. As we speak, nobody knows the form of register we are going to use at the polls on the horizon. Are we insane? I raised these questions in Parliament to the Minister of Justice. The opposition in Parliament stayed mute. Can we call it connivance? Is it collusion? That the opposition is not interested in the key reform issues, including a key one called the register. Why votes are stolen? Why multiple voting? Because you have a biometric register on the one hand and a manual one on the other hand. So do you need a PhD in politics to understand that that was a very important reform issue? As an example. And the several issues that we put in these bills I table for Parliament. That is time lost. The DF has an opportunity to rise to the occasion and remain focused. While marketing our candidates, we should articulate our agenda for the country. We contend that this country can only go back to the rails with a commitment of a plethora of legal reforms that speak to the constitutional reforms, reform of electoral legislation, on the presidency, on parliament, the electoral commission, local governments, including a key component of how power is shared in this country. We now have a very urgent situation of how power accumulated, appropriated, and centered with a strong man. The question is, whose power is it? It is this power accumulated that he surrenders in titbits. The electoral commission, I've given you some, but it's my power. So when I want it in form of victory, you return it. So our political actors, so naive in this country, especially in the opposition. Are they so blind? Are they so scared? As I conclude, Mr. Chairman, leadership requires presence and courage. And the opposition in Uganda lacks courage to confront controversial issues. And for me, that's not leadership. I have been to nations in Africa, especially, that have had the same problem. That I think in the next few days, you need to activate an earlier resolution of regional conferences of the DF, especially candidate meetings, candidate conferences at the regional level, to be able to reach to our candidates up close and speak to the issues, because we have big national issues, but as night follows day, politics is local. So I want to ask you, Chairman, and the Secretariat, to look for possibilities of conducting these regional conferences of our candidates, to be able to support them. And it's in these meetings that we shall be clear on our intentions and how we want to go about each of these regions, because they are not uniform. Like members observed here in their submissions. Because it will give us an idea of the nature of fight that we need to put up. The fight between man and a leopard, you know, the same way you're going to fight a cat. You know, sometimes it's a snake. You either cut off the tail and disempower it, if you can't hit the head, and again have your way. In a nutshell, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, it's a good day for DF to be able to publicly sit and speak about our party and the country. These days, parties operate differently. Parties operate secretively. Individuals decide on behalf of everybody. You cannot question their leaders. Leaders are not questionable. Leaders are supposed to be worshipped and adored. Where possible, they are supposed to be given gifts. Gods also speak as
Can we remain seated for the next 7 minutes, please?
Njagala okwebaza akadde ke mwaddeyo okulowooleza n'okuteeseza eggwanga nga tuyita mu kibiina kyaffe ekya Democratic Front. Njagala okwebaza abakulembeze abavudde ebitundu bya Uganda byonna mulimu gwe mukoze era gwe mukyakola okulaba nti kibiina kyaffe ekikyali ekipya ekikola ebyekikulu mukikuumira waggulu. Waliwo abaana abakula amangu, obwongo nga bukula mangu n'ebikola nebikulirako. The DF neyogerwako ng'ekibiina ekyakula amangu, ozo kitabira luliira mu nnyana. Omulimu guno gwe mukoze gulimu okwewaayo, gulimu okwefiisa oba okwesaddaaka, gusobole okubeera nga gulabika. N'abatatwagala bakkiriza nti DF weeri, nabadde bakyogera mukama, naye ekyo tukibalekera. Yemusazeewo ensi ebiwulidde, nenjala bagamba bino. Ekisooka nti okuvaamuko omulimu guno kugenda kuva ku bintu bingi. Twasuwa omukisa ogw'amaanyi okuyisaamu ebirowoozo byaffe byetwawandiikira buli kibiina ekiri mu opposition, okulwana okuteekawo ennongoosereza mu mateeka agafuga ebyokulonda n'amateeka ne ssemateeka nga mwali. Netuyitibwako obudde bungi, kati twemagaza ffenna kubanga obudde obw'amazima bututuukiridde. Oyala kutegeera akabaate ke twolekedde, akalulu katuuse, naye nga n'abajjayo empapula okwesimbawo tamanyi register gyagenda kukozesa, oba ya kompyuta oba ya kitabo. Naye olinzi bulinzi Ssaabagaba kyanaasalawo ekyo ekimuwa emirembe. Ekyo nno kya bulabe. Ebintu ebifaanako bwe bityo bibisazizaawo DF okugamba tugenda kukola mukolo gwa byabufuzi. Katuteeke amaanyi gaffe okutaayiza gye tulowooza tusobola okutaayizaayo, kubanga okutambuza eggwanga lino si mukolo. Kubanga akalulu ka pulezidenti akateekebwa gulinganga mukolo, nti omuntu avaako era yakola ki, yaddako. Ndowooza ebyo byakijega nnyo, tubyebuuliriddeko, twagala okukola ekisingawo. Tugenda genda eri abantu baffe tubategeeze ebigendererwa byaffe eby'ekibiina ebigazi byetwayagala ennyo tuwulirizibwe nga DF n'ebibiina ebirala bitambulire okwo. Ekyokusaalirwa situmanyi oba mu ngeri ya kkobaane oba butamanya, bannaffe ne batabiwa budde. Bwe twogerera buli muntu akaabira mu nsonda ye ng'alidde ebikaawa. Akaseera katugendamu, tubasaba mugambe abantu baffe aba DF wakati mu butakkaanya ku nsonga ezimu ne bannaffe abali mu bibiina ebivuganya tetulwanagana nabo. Oyagala okulwana naffe tumwerekere ebbanga, alwane n'ebbanga. Tuteeke amaanyi gaffe mu kunoonyeza abantu baffe betusimbyewo ku bimutendera obuwagizi obunaatuyamba okubeera n'abakulembeze mu gavumenti ez'ebitundu kuba tubeetaaga. Ezimu ku nnongoosa zetwali tulese mu tteeka tukimanyi bulungi tizijja kuggweera mu gavumenti ez'ebitundu mu nkiiko zeeyo. Ezimu zijja kuggweera mu kalulu ka kikungo nga keetagako abantu abateeketeeka obulungi ate abagoberera ensonga. Ezimu zijja kuggweera mu paalamenti olwetagayo abantu abagoberera ensonga era nga bazimanyi basobola n'oziteesaako ku lw'abantu abatatula mu paalamenti. Njagala kuddamu okwebaza Ssebusentebe ne eggwandiisizo lya DF olw'enteekateeka eno, era njagala kusaba abakulembeze yonna gye muvudde mugende mutegeeze abantu baffe ebikulu byetusazeewo. Ekyokusalawo gamba nti tugenda kusimbawo president si kutya, nesitumanyi balonzi gye bali, naye situwagala kukola mukolo nti naffe waliwo akavuyo naffe tugwetabemu. Nedda, si kavuyo nti akavuyo ako tujja kuba tusaaliddwa ennyo. Twagala tukole ebintu ebiriyo, naye twagala n'okusinga amanyi gaffe amatono tugateeke mu kuggyayo ebyo tulowooza nibikuleeta omuzinzi ogw'amaanyi mu ggwanga n'okukyusa ebyobufuzi mu ggwanga. Ekimu ku kyo ekigendera ku ekyo nti bannaffe abali mu bibiina ebivuganya tujja kubawuliriza, tetugenda kusimbawo candidate era situbalinaako buzibu. Abatulinako obuzibu muli bunyonyola ensi obuzibu bwe bufaanawo naffe, naye ffe obuzibu bwetubalinako butakkiriza kuba amagezi gwe mutamanyi ne mutambula nga mukulunga olugezigezi lwe mutategeera ne muteeka mu ntata. Kikizibu kyokka kyetubalinako, era situbalinako kizibu kya buntu. Naye okumanya nti bw'oba tomanyi obeera mwetowaze n'owuliriza abakola ki bamanyi. Ekyo kizibu ky'amaanyi nnyo, era tusaba ebibiina by'obufuzi ebiri mu kuvuganya biige okwetowaza. Obwetowaze obwo buyinza otuyamba okutuuka ku bintu bingi nnyo ne bye tutalowoozangako. Obutali bwetowaze bukuyisa ne woolaga